Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resyned has finally arrived, and honestly, I expected better performance, but after playing it for a while, I realized Ubisoft has done a fantastic job with the visuals. Even on the lowest settings, the game looks surprisingly beautiful. So how well does it actually run on a 4GB VRAM GPU? Let's find out. The game opens with an intense naval fight, and right away I was getting around 60 FPS, staying fairly stable throughout the fight. Considering how much was happening on screen, the performance was actually impressive. One thing that immediately stood out was the lighting. Ubisoft has clearly improved the darker areas, making them look much more realistic than I expected. Things started to change once Edward fell into the water. The frame rate dropped to around 40 to 45 FPS, but surprisingly, the game still felt smooth and responsive. It was not the kind of 40 FPS that feels choppy, which made the experience more enjoyable than the numbers suggest. As I reached the open island, performance became much more inconsistent. Even though the game looked fantastic on the lowest settings, FPS constantly fluctuated between 40 and 50, occasionally touching 60 in lighter areas. Since Ubisoft recommends a GTX 1660 with 6GB of VRAM, I knew my 4GB GPU would struggle a bit. But I was honestly expecting slightly better performance in these outdoor sections. Then I decided to try DLSS enabler to unlock DLSS frame generation, and the results completely changed the experience. There was one small issue though. The game kept crashing whenever MSI Afterburner was running, so I had to use another monitoring tool for testing. Once everything was working, FPS jumped to around 75 to 85, which is a massive improvement. More importantly, I couldn't really notice any additional input delay during normal gameplay. Unless you are an extremely competitive player, the game still feels smooth and enjoyable. With frame generation enabled, I think you can comfortably increase a few graphics settings while maintaining great performance. I'll be making a dedicated optimization guide very soon, so if you are interested, make sure to subscribe. Just for fun, I also decided to test ray tracing. The standard ray tracing preset was actually more playable than I expected, maintaining over 60 FPS in many areas without introducing major input delay. Then I switched to extended ray tracing. While the frame rate still stayed above 50 FPS, something just didn't feel right. The game suddenly felt much less responsive, and the overall gameplay experience was not nearly as enjoyable. It almost felt like the smoothness disappeared, even though the FPS counter still looked acceptable. Considering we are already pushing a 4GB GPU, I honestly don't think ray tracing is worth enabling. Overall, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resyned is definitely playable on a 4GB VRAM GPU. If you want the best experience, I would strongly recommend using DLSS enabler with frame generation. I already have a tutorial on my channel and I will pin it in the comments below. Hopefully Ubisoft continues supporting this game because despite the performance being a little lower than I expected, the visual improvements are genuinely impressive. If you have got a 4GB GPU, I would say this game is absolutely worth playing as long as you use frame generation. Without it, expect 40 to 50 FPS in the heavier areas. Thanks for watching.